with David Thomson. Thanks, David, for joining us today. He is the successful author of Blueprint to a Billion, and he just released a second book called Mastering the 7 Essentials of High-Growth Companies. And that particular book is very interesting because it talks a lot about how to apply those 7 essentials. So, David, could you take a minute and first tell us briefly what those 7 essentials are, and then in your work with clients, which ones seem to be the sticking points that the most companies need to focus on?
Sure. The 7 essentials are broken into 3 parts. The first one is your value proposition, or some like to call it the big idea, but it's really about delivering higher order benefits. Like Starbucks customizes the coffee for you, and then the third place to home and work is not about the beans and water. That 98% of that coffee, by the way, is water. There are 3 essentials to achieve compounding revenue growth. Redefining a high-growth market segment. Even in static markets, there are high-growth market subsegments. Having customers sell for you, act as your Salesforce extraordinaire, shortens your life cycles, and customers love to hear of other customer experiences. And leveraging Big Brother alliances to break into new markets. Having a relationship with Procter & Gamble, or back in history, Microsoft would not be the company it is today without its alliance partner in IBM. There are 3 essentials to deliver sustained growth in operations, and that is becoming the masters of exponential returns. As such, these companies were cash flow positive early and grew a cash flow positive model. And early on in this work, Margaret, no one thought that was an insight until you look at the economy today. It's not about leveraging long-term debt. Using a leadership pair, one is outside-facing on the external essentials and one is inside-facing, as Meg Whitman and Maynard Webb were outside-inside. Hewlett and Packard, Sears and Roebuck, they're quite well known in history. And then balancing your board or board of advisors with customers, alliance partners, and a CEO who's grown a business larger than yours. Now, to the second part of your question, some tips. We have over 3,000 companies that have used our 7 Essential Scorecard, which is on my site, blueprintgrowth.com. You can use for free. And
say the site name again?
blueprintgrowth.com. And we've done a lot of 7 Essentials workshops. And here are 4 areas where most companies struggle. They do not have a customer advisory council. So if you're low growth, get your best marquee customers to advise you on 3 things. First, what is their view of your higher order benefits? Second, what are their unmet needs and how can you fill them? Alliances. Alliances tend to be one of the underperforming essentials on average because it's kind of a mushy topic, but really understanding your value proposition and typically how you can fill a gap in a portfolio for a larger company. For example, Procter & Gamble's Mr. Clean. Smaller companies make the mops and erasers and gloves that allow them to expand into different vertical markets. And then finally, balancing your board with customers, alliance partners, and a CEO who's grown to a larger business than yours is really important. In many private and family businesses, this is a really big pitfall. If you're a $1 million business, get a $10 million CEO. If you're a $10 million business, get a $100 million CEO, and then once you get to $100 million, go strive for that $1 billion growth CEO.
So have you found that these 7 essentials apply equally well to any size company, or are there some of them that smaller companies should focus on first?
They apply to small companies and large. In fact, if you look back at the history of the companies that grew to $1 billion, they used the 7 essentials early. Example, Bill Gates bought the operating system based on his Big Brother alliance with IBM when they needed PC-DOS. It can't get clearer than that. They were a very small company that made tools, not operating systems. I applied the 7 essentials myself to my business. And large companies use them, and you can even apply them by business unit. So often when we do workshops, large businesses have to break this down into smaller units.
One of the things I find sometimes, and I read a confirmation in a McKinsey article last night, is that we tend to have a bias when it comes to ourselves. We are extremely pleased and proud of all the hard work that goes into making the products and services that we produce, in securing the customers that we have, and in how we personally feel about ourselves as leaders. And yet, as great as we are, we often feel more comfortable than perhaps we should in our market position, and from an outside-in perspective, people may be a little bit more critical of what we do than we would expect them to be. So how do you help people self-assess on these 7 principles to really get a good handle of what they do well and where they need to work, as opposed to have them do it on their own?
One of the techniques we have, the 7 Essential Scorecard is like a 360 feedback tool. So when we give it to management teams, you get your top 10, bottom 10, and you also get a characteristic what I call not on the same page, where someone scores market or customers A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5. So those are the hidden secrets to unlock, because when you come into a meeting, people aren't declaring how they view customer selling. What do they mean by that? Some have a much higher bar than others, and I call those sometimes people give it a 1 really mean we should be doing better. It's not a negative score, and having that frank discussion gets the team to declare these out on the table, actually gets them to be much more efficient and a better problem solving team.
Great. Well, I thank you for that. So it's important to know that no matter the size of our business, these 7 essentials can make a major difference in helping us get on the road to significant growth. Thanks for your time, David, and good luck with your growth.
Thank you.